Hello, everybody. As he said, my name's Renee McDaniel. I'm the Executive Director of the Kentucky Jailers Association. Been at the wonderful job for about 11 years now. Time flies when you're having fun. So we're here today to talk about county and state inmate work release programs and how these programs can help save your county's money, which is really important as it relates to the incarceration cost in the state of Kentucky, and how it also helps reduce recidivism over time in the event that your county chooses to use it. So what if I told you today that you could help with the workforce shortage in most of your counties? The Department of Labor says statistically we have the lowest unemployment rate in the Commonwealth of Kentucky in several years. If I told you that you could put more people in the workforce, you could take some of that money to help offset jail costs, and that inmate will become a member of society again, can begin saving money so that when he or she enters back into the real world, they have a leg up, so they don't go back into the cycle that the man before us so eloquently talked about. Well, we can tell you that. So the evolution of the program. From 2017 to 2019, state laws were amended to allow eligible offenders the right to work not in what you think of work release, so for other county agencies, but for for-profit companies. So the Amazons, the UPSs, the local factories of the world, the temp services that are in your community. They're allowed to go to work there. So they can work for for-profit companies located within our state. Obviously, if you're a border county, such as Christian or Simpson, they can't go over into Tennessee and start working because you lose jurisdiction over them and they can just stay there and not come back. Then you would have an escaped inmate. So that wouldn't be a great thing, would it? So these inmates can go and they can work. And as they work, they keep some of their wages. We take some of their wages to recoup the cost of housing them. They have to stay clean, right, in order to keep working. So they're healing themselves from the addiction that they probably have, because the majority of our inmates have addictions. And in that savings, they're able to help their children if they have children, and they're able to save so they can have an apartment. And the greatest thing about it is when they leave, these people will still employ them. So they get out, and they start their life over again, and they already have a job. You know, gone are the days when an inmate leaves and he can't find a job anywhere if your county will institute a program like this. Unfortunately, we have 10 counties who are trained to do it, but only 8 counties who are doing it. And we have 76 full-service jails in which this program could be done. So if you're a jailer that's sitting out here that's not doing it, you should seriously consider it. If you're a fiscal court, you should ask your jailer, why are you not doing this if it's allowed by state law? Because it's a great program. Some of the advantages of the program, I kind of got ahead of myself. I've already gone over. I mean, there's a workforce problem. So there are people, my husband's in the concrete construction business. We can't keep workers. There are people who need workers, who need laborers, and that's what these men and women can do. They can be laborers. They have to, these people, it helps in all those ways, as I've stated before. I'm trying to go through. So with that, there's 2 different programs. So as you know, we house state inmates, which are Class D, Class C, community custody, and controlled intake. Parole violators, we house those. We also have misdemeanor defendants. Those defendants, the county pays 100% of their incarceration costs. They are eligible too. So Kirstie's going to take over and talk about the state inmate work program. Then I'm going to talk about the county inmate work program. Then you're going to hear from Eric and Ashley, because Eric runs a beautiful program in Simpson County for both state and county inmates.
Good afternoon. So, like Renee said, I'm going to talk just a few minutes very briefly about the state inmate population in the county jails. What you see before you, KRS 532-100 is the governing authority that allows you all to have the ability to utilize this program and make it available in your communities. One of the things, I'm not going to read this all to you, this is verbatim, the language from the statute, but the biggest thing here to focus on is this program is for those Class D eligible inmates. So as Renee said, you're housing Class Ds, you're housing some of those Class C and those parole violators and those individuals. This program is targeted right now specifically only for those Class D offenders. So those lowest level nonviolent offenders that are typically serving 1 to 5 year sentences, okay? And One of the other things to note is this program also overlaps with the program, the court-ordered work release program that we've had for a number of years. So in addition to the judicial discretion and authority that your judges have upon sentencing for that 180 days while they're making a determination on shock probation, this program also runs parallel with that time. So those time frames overlap, okay? As Renee said, there is a provision in the statute that allows you all specifically as the counties to be able to help recoup some of the costs. Those costs are laid out specifically in the statute, and it says basically the lesser of the $55 or the 20%, okay? So those provisions are laid out directly in statute. There's also a provision in there for the jail to also collect on drug testing fees, because we do require them to be drug tested to make sure that they're staying clean and that they're following the rules. So there is a provision there also for you to recoup that cost as well. There are a few exclusions, so not all Class D inmates that are statutorily eligible to be housed in county jails are eligible under this program. So you'll see right there in front of you on the screen, those are the exclusions. Typically, those are your violent offenses, your sex offenders, those types of individuals that are typically excluded from programming. Just some highlights with regards to the inmate participation. This is a voluntary program. It's not something that the inmates have to do, okay? But it's also voluntary for the counties. And as Renee said, we currently only have 10 counties that have expressed interest in this program. They've all been trained through my office to offer the program, and the slideshow that you're seeing today is a portion of that training. The inmates are also responsible for making sure that they're the ones finding their own jobs. So the jails aren't assigning the jobs. The jails have a huge part in helping select the employers and bringing those employers in. But then these inmates are actually going through the hiring process just like any regular individual would who's applying for a job. They're going through that application process. They're going through that interview process, drug testing, whatever that company may require. The inmates are required to go through that process just the same. One of the things that we do require with this program is the jails are required to have a written policy and procedure. And you'll see the guidelines that are out here on the screen for you. They are very vague, and they are very vague for a reason. And that is because we want you all to be able to tailor this program to fit the specific needs of your particular county. So we know it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Eric and Ashley are going to talk a little bit about their program, but we know everybody's different. So we wanted to leave you all the leeway to be able to tailor, the program to be able to fit the needs of your community, your employers, and your county. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these. This just talks a little bit about, some of the guidelines that we require with regards to suitable placement. Again, very vague. We've done that on purpose to kind of leave the door open with regards to the type of employment that the inmates may have, but there still obviously has to be some accountability with regards to where they're working. We need to know where they are at all times, those types of things. The inmates need to know up front that they're required to pay the fee, okay? So there are some provisions there that we require some paperwork to make sure that they are aware up front of what their responsibilities are, what rules they're expected to follow. They're going to sign that agreement. And then the counties are going to have reporting requirements within the Department of Corrections as well. So once they start the program, they are required to report information to us weekly. That helps the Department of Corrections, number one, be able to keep track of our inmates and what's going on, but also helps us to collect data and statistics so that we can report back to you all and back to our legislators the effects that these programs are having and the benefits that we're seeing. I got a little bit ahead of myself, and I've already talked about the reporting. So one of the things that makes this program very interesting that is different from prior work release programs, whether it's the community service work release program or the court order work release program, is that in those programs, the per diem that you receive from the Department of Corrections was actually cut oftentimes because the court orders fees, and then we deduct those fees that you're collecting from the per diem. In this particular program, that doesn't happen. So the jail is going to get the full per diem per inmate per day that they would get for any state inmate, which is $31.34. So we will not be making any deductions on that. So those fees that you're collecting are on top of that per diem. One of the things that currently is prohibited by statute, and we're working to get changed, is the work for time credit. So normally for most programs now, if an inmate is providing work, they will get actually time off of their sentence for every 40 hours worked, okay? And so that is something that right now is statutorily prohibited, that we think that's a very easy fix, and that's something that we will work with the Kentucky Jailers Association and our other partners to hopefully get fixed within the next legislative session, so that that is not a deterrent for our inmates. We know that many of them love the thought of being able to go out and have a job and provide for their families and make a lawful working wage. But for some of them, you know, being able to get out earlier is more of an incentive than being able to collect a normal paycheck and provide savings. So we want them to not have to choose between the two. They should be able to earn work for time credit for the work that they're performing.
So that's the 25,000-foot view on the state inmate work program. So now we go to the county inmate work program. The county inmate work program is a little different. It's governed by a different statute, KRS 441-127. I'm not going to read it in its entirety, but some highlights of it is you do not have to get a judge's permission. So not your judge executive, but your district or circuit judge's permission to work these inmates. It's at the sole discretion of the jailer. So the jailer evaluates the county inmates that are in his facility and says, okay, he can go out, he cannot. He may be a threat to the community or himself. He may not be a threat to the community himself. And you can choose which of those county inmates go out and work for for-profit companies. As you choose which goes out, you want to keep in mind that, you know, the jailers are elected, so they don't want to send out somebody bad. So it's kind of a checks and balance system for themselves. And the other thing is, Kirstie just talked about it, the Class D inmates don't get credit for time served, so, but county inmates do. So for every 40-hour work week that they work, it's 1 day off their sentence. So they have a double initiative to go into this program. The program is voluntary for county inmates, just like Kirstie said, but if they choose to go in this program, you choose to put them out in the community for work. They're getting a paycheck, and they're getting a day off a sentence for every week they work. So that's a pretty big deal, right? Because they're going to get out early, and they're making money on their way to getting out early. And, oh, by the way, every day that they're not there, you, as an elected official in your county, are saving a minimum of $31.34 a day for housing them, and you're getting a fee from them, a reasonable fee for drug testing, as well as a percentage of their wages to offset the cost of you housing them, and you pay 100% of their cost to be housed. The state doesn't reimburse us. It's important to have written policies and procedures. Unfortunately, the 8 counties that are doing this right now have really good written policies and procedures. There is no point in reinventing the wheel. Call one of those counties up, call the Jailers Association, call Kirstie, call Eric, and say, hey, can you send us a copy of those policies? And we certainly will. Change their county to your county, amend anything you need to amend, and put these people to work. Because it's that simple. Same with Kirstie. You need a contract between you and the inmate. You need to sit down and say, hey, if you test dirty, you're out, right? If you bring in contraband, you're out. You don't, you know, you're too sick to go to work 5 days in a row, you're out. So make it very clear to the inmate, hey, this is a privilege to you to be able to go out into the community and work and earn a living wage. Don't mess it up, because if you do, you're back in here and you're going to serve your whole sentence. So it's important to let the inmate know up front what his expectations are of you and what your expectations are of him. So with that, it's a really quick overview of both county and state inmate work release program. I'm going to switch slides really quick and let Eric and Ashley talk about the wonderful program in Simpson County, and then we'll take questions.
Is that on? There we go. My name is Eric Vaughn. I am the Simpson County Jailer. I took office in 2011, and when I went in, I noticed that the recidivism rate was off the charts. And it bothered me, being a Simpson County, knowing a lot of the people that come in. Of course, we house the majority of state inmates versus county. But anyway, I couldn't understand why you just keep coming back. Why do you keep coming back? So I guess I did it the country way. I went and I polled 300 inmates. And I asked them, why do you keep coming back? I mean, what's the deal? And they said, well, we don't have a job, don't have any money, don't have a car, don't have any housing. I thought about that for a week or two or three. And I came back and I tasked my staff with attacking this challenge. And we worked at it. We put our heads together. We listened to the inmates. If you don't listen to the inmates, you're not going to know. And they'll tell you. They'll tell you straight up what's going on in those facilities and why they keep coming back. So anyway, long story short, that developed into a program that we developed at Simpson County. This young lady right here, Lieutenant Penn, took it by the reins and helped develop what we now call the SCORE program. I'm going to step aside right now because she knows all the details to everything. So I'm going to let her speak on the SCORE program. It is one of the largest programs in our area, probably the most aggressive program in South Central Kentucky. And we've got good success rates so far. She's going to get into that. And then when she's done, I'm going to tell you a few success stories. And I expect my county judge executives and magistrates to listen up because it is going to affect your community if you choose to go this route.
Hello. All right, as Jailer Vaughn had said, my name is Ashley Penn, and I'm just going to get right into it. A lot of the slides that I have in here, Renee and Kirstie's already gone over, so if I skip over some things, I'm not skipping over information, I assure you. So what is the SCORE program? It's an acronym that we came up with. It's the Second Chance Offender Rehabilitation and Education. Education is our foundation. Every person that we put through our SCORE program has to have an education. You cannot go out and get a job without a GED or high school diploma, and we stress that most importantly. So with our name, we had to make sure we had education in there as well. The design of the program is to look at each individual person, their specific barriers, and address their concerns as opposed to investing time and money and resources into unneeded programming. We look at each person at what they need, because each of us sitting in this room, we have different needs. They're the same way. So we want to address those individual needs and make sure we're not over-programming them before we put them out to work, as well as make sure we give them the tools they need to be successful. So our first phase is that initial intake. We sit down with our residents, the inmates, sorry, I call them residents. It's a respect thing that we have. I sit down with all of our residents that's interested in the SCORE program, and I let them know, this is the criteria of the SCORE program. We hold them to a very high standard. If they want to be in programming, if they want to work their way up to work release, then they have to show that their goal is not to continue to be a tax burden, because that's essentially what they are. So we go through and we determine what their needs are in the first phase. This is a list of all the different classes that we offer. Not every person is going to go through all those different classes. That's where we narrow in what they need. Our phase 2 is when they're going through the classes. All of our programs, I tell them, are a 6-month program. So generally, you're going to be looking at somebody in programming for at least 6 months before they're even going out to work. This gives us an opportunity to evaluate their behavior, evaluate their goals, and to set them on a path for success. They're also doing community service work. This builds them a schedule. For most people that comes in and out of jail, they don't have a set schedule. They're not used to waking up. They're not used to going to bed at a normal time. We try to instill those values that we hold to a high standard and make them realize how essential it is for them to be successful. And then we move into our phase 3, which is the work release program that we have been talking about. With our work release program, these are the requirements as Kirstie had talked about. Let me get to the benefits. So what's the benefits to the employers for having work release? Our employees are arriving on time every single day. They are there on time. And we know that because we have a transport deputy that's taking them, and we're monitoring them. We're picking them up. We have that open line of communication with these employers, which is a big incentive for your employers, because right now, go talk to any factory. They're going to tell you, I can't get people to show up. That's what they're telling us. So just having a motivated employee that wants to come to work every day is half the battle for your employers. They're also drug-free. A lot of factories have gone now to where they can't afford to drug test on a normal basis because they know they would lose half their staff. But we drug test. We drug test frequently and make sure that we are still holding everyone that's participating to that higher standard. We also allow for flexible scheduling. Whenever I'm working with an employer, the first thing they ask me, well, does everybody have to be on first shift? Absolutely not. That's not realistic. That's not how businesses work, especially the factories that we're working with. Most of them are working third shift, and that's where their vacancies are. So we allow for third shift. As I said, we have that transport deputy that's taking them to and from work. We know that they're there. We're going and doing on-spot checks, making sure they're doing what they need to be doing. And this is reassuring your employers that this program is beneficial for them as well, because you're not putting a safety risk in their factory. So the benefits of the community. They're tax-paying citizens. All the residents that's setting in all your local facilities right now, they're not paying taxes. Everyone that we're sending out to work, they're paying taxes, just like you and I do every single day. This is an additional revenue from financial obligations being paid. They're paying their restitution. They're paying their child support. That's additional revenue that's going back into your counties. That's things that's not being taken from your county when this child needs a medical card because their father's in jail. This eliminates those issues because they're able to pay for those medical bills and stuff from working through this program. We also have healthier residents, physically, mentally, and emotionally. There again, they have health insurance. We provide health insurance, state health insurance, but a lot of these people have never held a steady job before. They've never had health insurance. So this is giving them opportunities to go out and seek that better health care. They're also working with normal people, as we call them, building those relationships to be more successful instead of just seeing people that are reoffending over and over and over, and that becomes the lifestyle that they're used to. And they're also better adjusted when they're re-entering society. As it is right now, when somebody gets out, they've served their time as a state inmate, we give them a bus ticket. I'm almost done with my master's degree. You remove me from my people, places, and things for 3 years and give me a bus ticket, I'm not going to be successful. I assure you. No one would. You have to give them the tools to be successful if you expect them to be successful, and that's what we're trying to do. Going into some of our stats, right now we've had 84 participants through this program. Currently we have 33 out working, and 35 people have been released from custody. And although it takes about 5 years for us to truly capture our success rate, right now with the numbers we're looking at, we have about an 81% success rate with our program. Do you want to go into the next steps?
Now, see, I get to tell you the good stuff. So, anyway, you know, I told you, pay attention. Here's unbelievable figure that I'm fixing to give you. In the last year and a half, we have collected in restitution court costs from this program $26,000 in restitution to the courts. That's just restitution to the courts. Now, you mom and daddies, this affects every family in the state of Kentucky. We have collected in child support $56,988 from this program, from those people. That's unbelievable. Now, that's not the best thing. You gonna go ahead and do this? Okay. Not only are these residents becoming productive citizens, but they're changing their thought process, and they're becoming human beings, working human beings, just like we are. Everyday society. For example, we had a group that was out picking up trash. This is on the daily work crew, out picking up trash. And I didn't know this for about 2 weeks after it happened. But there was a man out in one of our waterways that got trapped. And one of our trash pickup crews happened to be there, and they saved his life. I didn't know this for 2 weeks after it happened. They're very modest. They're keeping it to themselves. They're doing what's right and going on about their business. So that's a pretty good story right there. Now, I'm going to tell you how it's going to affect your community. I'll tell you how it affected ours. The first story is we have a truss building factory in Franklin, Kentucky. It's called Stark Truss. When we started this program, they had 5 or 6 employees. That's all they had, running one shift, and that was it. Within a year's time, they have 3 shifts. And they're being so productive, that's going to be, that's going to be the semi up there in the top corner. They're being so productive. This is a locally owned business. I'm looking at Allen County right there. You're standing out. You have a lot of locally owned businesses. A lot of you smaller communities, you've got locally owned businesses. Not only have they expanded in our community, they've opened up a second factory in Georgia. So how does it impact your community? Right there is a story. That's a fact. Feel free to call them. The next thing that I would like to tell you is just this past month, some of you that are familiar with Franklin Simpson, not Franklin County, we have a huge factory. It's called FPI, Franklin Precision Industries. Very productive factory. I think they make Toyota parts. The Employee of the Month this month is one of my residents, voted on by their peers, and this is a big company. They are working. Give me 63 cents and let me go pick up trash. Or give me $15 to $17 an hour and let me go be productive. What am I going to do? Am I going to mess that up? No, I'm not. Now this gets a little better. I have a mother of 2 that works at one of the factories, and we've got 3 or 4 that we're working with right now. We've got more coming on that are asking to come on. We're not asking them, they're asking us now because the word's spreading. I've got a mother of 2 that is incarcerated. Her son needed braces, kind of an emergency type situation. Daughter needed glasses. Mr. Barnes, if you're incarcerated and your kids are on the outside, who's taking care of your kids? The taxpayers. Is that a fair statement? Might be a grandmother, but more than likely it's going to be, or grandfather, more than likely it's going to be the taxpayers. This lady is inside a jail, lives inside of a jail, still has a year on her sentence, and she has her children under an insurance plan. And guess what? Her insurance paid 100% of it. So this program is not only helping individuals become better people and getting prepared to go out in the world, but they're taking care of their families from inside too. To me, that's amazing. To me, the bigger picture is this is working. Now, the last one I'm going to tell you about. Where's that thing at? Yeah, you're good. No, you're good. The bottom corner. Those are some of the first ones that completed the course and got out. Now, how many, if you were an inmate, how much money do you think you would have in a banking account? If you came in with nothing, how much money do you think you would have in a banking account when you left? Nothing. Going to turn you out? You have nothing? You have no expectations. These right here, they graduated the course. They served their sentence. One of them had like almost $12,000 in his account. You know what he said to me? He shook my hand like a man. He said, Jailer Vaughn, thank you for all the opportunities that you've given us. Thank you for treating us fair. And he said, I'm going to go buy a motorcycle. I said, oh, God. That's true. This is a true story. He says, I'm going to go buy a motorcycle. I said, hold up, hold up, hold up. Have we taught you anything? He said, yes, sir, you taught me a lot. And I said, then why are you going to go take $11,000 or $12,000 and go buy a motorcycle? He said, I'm not going to use all of it. And I said, all right. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I found me a bike. He said, one of the people that I work with, you going to sell it to me? He said, it's $2,000. It gets me back and forth to work. I said, you go get that motorcycle. They're keeping their jobs. When they're getting out, they're keeping their jobs. I mean, they're free people. If they were going to revert back, and this is probably not appropriate, but if they're going to revert back to, a lot of them are thug life, they're going to do it right then. They're going to do it right then. But they're not doing it. They're getting up and they're going back to work the next day because they know they have a start. They have the resources that we have not been giving them. And as a human being, it's the right thing to do. I know there's a lot of jailers sitting out here. I see a bunch in the back row that are starting their programs. We've been training a lot of the jails across the state of Kentucky. They've been coming to us. They've been sitting with us and seeing how we're doing it. And it's starting to spread. I encourage you to get with your jailers, each and every one of you, and, get this implemented in your community because it's only going to help you. And when you help the people in your community, you're helping me too because we pay our taxes and we're supporting them right now. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to Renee.
So with that, we'll take questions. If anybody has questions about any of the programs, I think between the four of us, we can answer it. If not, we can certainly take your information and get back with you. And if there are no questions, then this session's over, and the next one starts at 2:45. So, yes, sir. All the programs we talked about today, they are being housed in the jail. The only way they wouldn't be allowed to be housed in the jail is if you work with your judges, like your circuit and district judges, and they release them. You're referring to what Kirstie talked about. There's a long-standing court-ordered work program, and the judge orders the inmate to work. So that's not voluntary, right? That's involuntary. But they are still housed in the jail when they're doing it. So the jail's eligible to recoup a percentage of the cost from what the inmate's making. So it works two ways. With the state inmate program, correct me if I'm wrong, they're eligible to recoup 20% or $55 a week, whichever's less per inmate, and they do not get credit. For the county inmate program, we're able to recoup the same amount, 20% or $50, whichever's least, but they get it. Is it day-for-day credit or 40 hour? It's a day-for-day credit now. That changed. So every day they work, it's 1 day off their sentence. So if an inmate's there a month less, you're saving because you're not paying for him to be there a month more because he's worked for a month. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Question, and I appreciate you all being here. Great program. I appreciate so much the effort and the changes that have been made with statutes through corrections to do this. Question I've got, we are looking at home about entering this program or doing this program, but we're thinking about contracting with a private firm that does this, that you're familiar with. But I'm curious if you can tell me a little bit from the state perspective of the success of the private contractor. Has it been in line with that of the success of the programs that are operated by the jail itself? I can see some benefits by operating the program within our own jail. It allows for, I think, a little bit more attention to be paid to the program. It allows us to stay on top of it, possibly a little better than having someone removed from the program. But I'm curious your thoughts on that, and I have another question.
So to be quite honest with you, the program that utilizes a third-party entity is a fairly new program. So quite honestly, things are going fine, with regards to the inmates going out and working and them reporting the information back to us. But really, quite honestly, I'm not sure that they've had anybody graduate, or serve out from their sentence yet. And if they have, they've probably only been out just a few short months because that program just started this summer.
Okay.
So it's not been in operation long enough to really see overall are there true differences. From our perspective, I don't see a whole lot of differences operationally. It's just, who's kind of taking care of those functions.
Okay. Did the jailer have a comment on this? I saw him.
I was just going to say, as far as third party, I was actually looking at some of the third party stuff. I actually have a deputy that's going to be leaving me due to she's doing some following her medical dreams, and that's fine. Actually, we were just talking about, me and the judge and some of the magistrates were talking about last week. I may hire her because she's already a certified instructor for our SCORE program. I may hire her part-time to continue on. It'll help alleviate some of the burden as far as giving classes and stuff like that. So that's about as far as I'm going into it with a third party. But I know this third party. She's been doing the job assistant with Lieutenant Penn. So
The other part of the question I'd like to ask is in regard to, I can understand if somebody's there for child support payments, or they're there for some sort of restitution and that sort of thing. It's fairly straightforward and simple. What if you have the problem of a person being a Class D as a result of drugs? And as a result of this drug, the issue, they not only need, of course, the job and that support, but they also need some rehab. Do you couple any rehab or treatment in conjunction with this work program? They're eligible for the work program, but they also have to attend some sort of rehab program that may be an evening type program or after hour work hours or weekend or whatever. I'm just curious about that.
That was part of what I was talking about in the initial. They have to go through their programming and classes before they're even eligible for the work release. But a lot of them, even like if they work first shift, whenever they get off, like on Thursday nights we have AA. A lot of them I still see in our AA and NA classes because they want to continue that. Once they have gone out on work release, because of what our class schedule is, we don't require them to continue with classes, but they have met their individual case assessments, and if they have drug issues, then they're going to relapse prevention. and
Okay.
those MRT classes. And a lot of them have also completed SAP as well, because we want them to address those issues on the forefront so that we can help them to build on those tools.
And you operate your own SAP?
No,
Oh, you do not?
we
Okay.
do not have a SAP program.
Okay.
And Judge, just to add to that, and that's one of the reasons why when we wrote this policy, we left it so vague, is that if that's something that you really see a need for in your community with substance abuse, because, you know, obviously the overwhelming majority of our population have some type of
Sure.
substance use disorder. But, you know, that's certainly something that you could tailor in and make a part of your program that is in conjunction with the work release program.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great work, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?
There's one thing that I forgot that I do want to tell you. Our vision when we started this was to turn tax burdens into taxpayers, and that's what we are doing.
Thank you for having us. Oh, I'm sorry, one more question, and then we'll wrap up.
Beginning in 1972, my corporate experience was right here. That's when Ford, International, GE were 10,000 and more. Our corporation was 2,200. Our risk manager and our attorney would absolutely, at the door, have turned people away because of the risk to the corporation. What are the liabilities to corporations today, and how are we getting past that stigma plus the financials that we would have faced back in the 70s?
Is Rich in the room by any chance?
So I'm not an attorney, so I kind of shatter at answering this. But there is a legal contract between the county, right? So the fiscal court does most of the contracts, but between the jail and the corporation, the company in which that chooses to work this. So they volunteer. So their attorneys look at the liabilities and the risk associated with it and make a decision based on that. I will say, you know, the tides have turned a lot. You know, used to nobody would hire a convicted felon. There's a nationwide movement called Ban the Box. So don't look at somebody's past. Look at who they are now and what they can do in the future. And a lot more companies have opened up to hiring convicted felons. The other thing is these inmates are guaranteed to be drug-free, and everybody struggles now with the drug-free workplace. Everybody does. And from the workers' comp standpoint, you know, KACo has a workers' comp line. It's really hard to insure people who have a bunch of drug addicts, you know. And so workers' comp loves that these people are drug tested and loves that they're a guaranteed workforce. So it's up to the individual companies, obviously, if they want to take that next step.
Can I add to that? You're talking about drug testing. Not only do the factories drug test, they have their policies. But when they come, when the inmate or the resident comes back to us, we drug test too. If they fail our drug test, and we have a pretty high panel, we have the highest panel. If they fail that drug test in any way, guess what? They're out of the program and they don't get to work ever again. It's a one-time shot. Either you're man enough or you're woman enough to do this and you're ready to change your life, and we're going to help you do that, or it's over with. It's simple as that. And it doesn't take but just one to fail out for it to spread through the entire facility, and they know, hey, they mean business. So, I mean, we do it, we hold them to the fire, and it's been pleasant.
What about a big round of applause?